On this edition of Mississippi Roads, we're walking into Clarksdale with Robert Plant for the Sunflower River Blues and Gospel Festival. Check in Clarksdale's historic Riverside Hotel and take a musical journey with Wilco's Pat Sansone.
Mississippi Roads is made possible in part by the generous support of viewers like you. Thank you.
Support for the arts segment of Mississippi Roads comes from the Mississippi Arts Commission, whose mission is to be a catalyst for the arts and creativity in Mississippi. Information available at arts.state.ms.us.
Down Mississippi Road, Mississippi Road.
Well, hi, welcome back to Mississippi Roads. I'm your host, Walt Grayson. This week we've traveled to Clarksdale to the 25th Annual Sunflower River Blues and Gospel Festival.
It was always on the map. It just, being on the map, Clarksdale itself did not realize how much it was on the map. Bill and I sort of helped it along in that sense. That is, people were coming here from everywhere to hear blues, and we couldn't guarantee it. So we made it so you could guarantee it, and they're still coming from everywhere, but now they stay. So
Long and tall, she weep like a willow tree.
if you stick around long enough, people hear about you, they'll come. Build it, Bessie, they'll come.
And that's exactly what people from all over the world are doing, traveling to Clarksdale, Mississippi for the 25th Annual Sunflower Blues Festival.
I'm feeling pretty good about how it is now and where it's basing itself. I've only been involved with it for the last, 15? But if you look outside, we're smoking along pretty good.
Well, Clarksdale's always been a popular destination for European travelers looking to trace the blues trail. The Sunflower Blues Festival offers 3 days of blues and gospel music that generations of family members can all enjoy. During the 2012 festival, Robert Plant, former frontman for Led Zeppelin, showed up to give Clarksdale his perspective on the blues.
The only reason to come to America was to come here, really. I mean, Clarksdale's it's a sort of a condition that I've had since I was a kid. I really, I was so moved by the music when I had no knowledge of the social structure of this state, or even the kind of racial, interplay, if you want to call it that. I had no idea when I was a kid. I just heard the music, and I think, like so many kids around the world, no matter what language you speak, it's a kind of, it's very evocative and infectious and alluring. But once you're drawn to the sound of the music and the scales, then you start learning more and more about the story behind it all.
Didn't take too long before I found out what people mean by down and out.
I was 13 when I first heard, I suppose, just black music generally. I guess it was Sonny Boy Williamson, and he was playing, and he became quite a celebrity in England when I was at school. So I picked up the harmonica, and I loved his kind of the way that he played and swung, and he was a real star in the UK.
And with the popularity of Mississippi Delta blues in Britain came the British invasion, with all of their roots stemming from right here in Mississippi.
It's important because this is like the nativity. This is where American music actually gets its base. All of American music, somehow you can trace it all the way back down here to blues and gospel, right here in the Delta.
I don't know, but I've been told a big mad woman ain't got no soul.
I see my own mortality in a different light now to when I was a kid, and I know that when I was a kid, I did see a lot of the people who are now heralded in this room, who were real space shifters, you know, and I come back here because, I don't know, I connect. There's a lot of unfinished business down here. I don't know what it is even, I just know that. And sometimes I feel these very evocative moments where I can feel history and I can feel, I don't know. And on that note, I must wish you all a very good night.
Clarksdale is located in Coahoma County, in the heart of the Mississippi Delta, and home to the blues. We're at one of Clarksdale's most famous, or maybe I should say one of Clarksdale's most infamous blues landmarks, the intersection of Highway 61 and 49, the notorious crossroads where local legend has it that world-renowned blues guitarist Robert Johnson sold his soul to the devil. Or was that blues guitarist Tommy Johnson? No, that was an Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Anyway, in our first story, we're going to visit a Clarksdale landmark with a reputation a little less sinister.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you this breaking news. Jazz and blues legend Bessie Smith has been pronounced dead in Clarksdale, Mississippi. Details are not known at this time. Please stay tuned for more information. Now, in memory, Bessie Smith's "Tain't Nobody's Business If I Do."
Bessie Smith was known, or is known, as the Empress of the blues. She was making records and people were buying them. In late September 1937, late at night, coming in from Memphis to Clarksdale, Bessie and her driver were coming down Old 61. She was brought by ambulance to Clarksdale's G.T. Thomas Hospital, but it was too late by then.
I'm going to do just as I want to.
It is the most blues historic place in the world that you can stay. You know, it's got the rich history of pre-hotel, which when it was the G.T. Thomas Afro-American Hospital. Bessie Smith, the great blues singer from the 20s, died there in 1937. Then in 1944, Frank Ratliff's mother started the Riverside Hotel, and it's been continuously operating ever since then.
This place was built in 1920-something. These doors are the original. August 10th, 1944, that's when my mother brought me through the doors, these doors, when she opened this business up.
She's one of the best-known ladies that ever been in these parts here. She's seen the hardship, and her being a black woman, or a woman period, she withstood the test of time because she kept business going on, even in the old days and stuff when things were really tight.
You have to consider where we are and what that time was like. Here's a lady that had multiple businesses, had great store credit. She was a seamstress, she had a cafe, she had a hotel. It was a lady who was obviously very together and a very strong and intelligent woman.
When Mother looked at this place, it was only 8 rooms. From this wall to the back, that's what Mother had added. I don't buy furniture. I got furniture here over 100 years old. That furniture there, 1944. You look around, all these pictures, these people have stayed here, lived here, some of them lived here. Room 9, Ike Turner. He lived here about 4 or 5 years before he left. The Rocket 88, Ike Turner, it was written by Jackie Brunson. And the music, everything was put together in the basement. They went to Memphis and recorded it. Everybody that stayed here called Mom, Mom. John Lee Hooker, Sam Cooke, Muddy Waters lived here.
When he tells you, you know, you're staying in the Muddy Waters room or the Pop Staples room or the John Lee Hooker room or whatever, they stayed there. So the music history is just incredibly rich. I mean, you're staying right where it happened, where the guys who made the music stayed.
They played with me, and when I was small, when I was 4, 5, and 6 years old, they come in, they lived here, and after they come from a gig, from playing, they go back there and get me out of my bed.
You're staying here because of its history in a lot of ways, but the part of the history happens to be, you know, of the living guy who owns and runs the place.
My impression of the place is very unassuming place. Like people, you know, appearances aren't that important. It's one of the most unpretentious places I think I've ever been to.
Came in and kind of fell in love with it immediately. Learned about all the people who'd stayed here, and I think we're in Sam Cooke's room, or, you know, it's all really cool stuff. So, and then Rat, the owner's quality, he's a really good guy.
Rat is actually connected to the history. He's not a tour guide that has sort of studied the patter and gives it out, you know, or he's not a MA history student who's just telling you what he's learned. You know, he's actually lived the experience.
Rat and the Riverside are pillars of Clarksdale and the historical community.
Clarksdale isn't like a museum piece. You know, it's not this thing that's kind of sunk in formaldehyde. You know, it's still a living city.
Everyone's very friendly. You know, we've been hanging out in bars and restaurants, and it's, you know, everyone's very hospitable.
You know, one of the really awesome things for guests who stay at the Riverside Hotel is that not only are you welcomed when you check in, you know, you might get a tour if you haven't been there before and some conversation and history, but also he'll come down and check on you. If you go to Red's Lounge at night, he'll come and check on you. Not because he thinks something's going to happen, but because he wants you to feel, you know, like you're at home. Try to get that out of a 5-star hotel.
Riverside Hotel, home away from home.
See, I'm just a caretaker. The people that come here, they are the owner. And I tell them, you rent from me, you just bought stock in the Riverside.
And not only is Mississippi the birthplace of the blues, but country music and rock and roll and a lot of other forms of popular music trace their roots back to the Magnolia State. Maybe that's one of the reasons why so many nationally renowned artists once called Mississippi home.
I can't be so far away from my wasteland.
And I'm sitting on the 3rd row, and I can't help but, you know, tell the person next to me, I said, "You see the guy on the right? That's my boy over there." So, you know.
Almost.
That's when it dawned on me that I think I'm the father of a rock star. I'm not sure. It's like a storybook. As you know, some people can't believe your boy is playing with Wilco.
Heard a faint ole, true love, but I heard all the ways to hurt myself.
Pat's just one of the most natural musician I think, you know, I've ever met.
I've always been involved in music, I think from day one. My family, very musical.
You know, Pat's grandmother was a great musician too. She played piano. And my grandmother was a great musician. She played piano too. They were sisters. So we kind of grew up in that whole environment of living around a house or going to a house on Sundays or holidays where there was a lot of music going on. That's the environment that we grew up in.
My dad grew up in a very musically sort of active family, you know, and they were sort of always doing shows, you know, around the house and for people in the neighborhood. It was just, I think, you know, show business was just kind of always part of their mode of being.
So he was getting music from both sides pretty much all the time.
fact that my dad, Tony Sansone, was involved with a festival called the Lively Arts Festival. He booked acts in Meridian at the Temple Theater all through the 70s and 80s, and he was responsible for bringing a lot of legendary music, a lot of legendary acts to Meridian.
We had some great shows here. And my boy spent a lot of time on the stage when that was his growing up time, and we would, he would come down here with me and sound checks, and he got to see Ray Charles and Tony Bennett.
Gladys Knight and the Commodores, and lots of great country acts.
And all these famous people on the stage, and he kind of could relate to that even as a kid.
Meridian is a very musical city.
Toss of chimneys in the sea. I believe I've seen the finger divine extremity.
He graduated down there, and he stayed down in Hattiesburg and worked at a t-shirt place.
And when I left Hattiesburg and moved to New Orleans in the mid-90s, John had moved from Oxford to New Orleans as well. So we both ended up in New Orleans at the same time.
We had really similar tastes in terms of music that we just sort of just bonded over favorite records, And so I started bouncing songs off of him, and we recorded the first Autumn Defense record at Kingsway in New Orleans, a really great Daniel Lanois studio.
I have heard the war and worry of the gospel very fast across the void. I have married, broken spoke, charging smoke wheels, spit and swallowed opioids.
Through that connection and through our band, that's how I got to know Jeff and Glenn and the Wilco guys.
So everyone knew him, and that was sort of the way with Wilco. It was always not really about auditions. It was more about who was sort of in the area, and and just friends. Mainly just that was kind of the way it's always been with the band. And Jeff knew, Nels Cline would be a good fit, and try to make a kind of a super band or something to have Pat involved, and they both really raised the level of the musicianship in the band. He's almost taken this, he and Jeff have had this wonderful sort of rapport in the studio where Jeff has more of a vision, is kind of more of a big picture guy, and Pat's more of a small, detail-oriented guy in the studio. And he's sort of been, with Jeff, sort of almost the musical director at different times in the band.
It happened very organically. It wasn't really set out that I was going to be the co-producer of the record when we started the record. We started making the record in our own studio in Chicago without an outside producer this time. And there just came a point in the process where there needed to be someone sort of filling the hole that was there because we didn't have an outside producer. I think Jeff kind of trusted me in that sort of situation enough to kind of allow me to fill that role with this record. But they're different animals, the studio and the stage. I love to perform. I mean, there's, I just the feeling that you get in that conversation between yourself and the audience and the guys that you're playing with, and it can be a really thrilling feeling, when it's going well. There's kind of no other place you can get that. We try to do a show that's satisfying to the crowd and satisfying to us. And there's a big catalog. The Wilco catalog is pretty big at this point, so there's a lot of music to draw upon. I think of the temple as sort of a sacred place to me. That was the place where my dad put on all those shows in the 70s.
We said, let's see if we can get Wilco. So I called the office.
I kind of told him, if you want to book Wilco at the temple like you always have, you know, good luck, you know. And he went through the same process that anybody would, you know, to book Wilco.
He still makes fun of me about that, but that's okay. It's you know, we only were going to do one show, so we didn't have any computer, we didn't have any credit card set up, we didn't have anything.
So I said, you know, well, you're going to be getting people, you know, from all over the South, maybe all over the country. You know, there's going to be people from all over that are going to be coming to this show. You know, have you got your credit card? You know, do you have an online thing happening for ticket buys or credit card? And he said, oh no, we're probably not going to do any credit cards. You know, I was like, well, you have to have a credit card, you know, set up for you know, how are you going to sell tickets to people all over the country? So, well, we'll probably just do like we always did, you know, if they can send me a self-addressed stamped envelope, you know, and the you know, and the money for the tickets, and we'll send their tickets back. I was like, that is never going to work. You know, you just can't do it.
We couldn't send them to the wrong place because they addressed the envelope, sent it back, and we sold this theater out in 3 or 4 days.
Every single person that sat in that theater, he had talked to on the phone and helped them pick out their seats.
I think that's the way that Tony had always produced and done shows, you know, and it still worked for him with the Wilco show.
And then next thing I know, we're booked at the Temple Theater.
It's my father's voice trailing off, sailors sailing off in the morning. With the air-conditioned rooms at the top of the stair.
It's a very rare and unique opportunity to be able to play with you know, 5 other guys that get along so well and also are able to connect so deeply musically. I feel very lucky to be able to do this with these guys.
I think that he's a goodwill ambassador for our state. You know, we've had a lot of other musicians that were goodwill ambassadors too. Chris Etheridge, who just left us, was a goodwill ambassador for our state. I think Pat's kind of filling those shoes now, you know.
I'm about as proud as a dad could be of a son who's done real well, and he's a nice person. Patrick is a nice person who happens to be a great musician.
Well, regrettably, that's all the time we have for this episode, but if you'd like any information about anything you've seen on tonight's show, contact us at mpbonline.org/Mississippi Roads. Till next time, I'm Walt Grayson. I'll be seeing you on Mississippi Roads. We close tonight with a song written by Graham Parsons and Meridian's own Chris Etheridge.
Hot Burrito #1. You may be sweet and nice, but that won't keep you warm at night, 'cause I'm the one that showed you how to do those things you're doing now. He may feel all your charms, and he may hold you in his arms, but I'm the one who let you in. I was right there beside you then.
Once upon a time, you let me feel you deep inside, but no one saw, no one knew. Do you remember how you cried? I'm your toy, I'm your old boy, but I don't want nobody else to love me. You know I wouldn't lie. You know I'm not that kind of guy.
Mississippi Roads is made possible in part by the generous support of viewers like you. Thank you.